I love this conversation, and what everybody's speaking about, of course, resonates for me. And I've been working on being in the moment as much as possible, just being here. And what's coming up is my lack of courage. The word courage keeps showing up for me, and I just heard courage, and I heard discourage, and I heard encourage. And I hear your courage. And I'm just looking for that. Where does that lie? How to tap that, so that I can just be and trust. And I feel like for me, courage and trust just go hand in hand.
Yeah, beautiful.
How to find that, how to hold that, how to return to it.
Mm-hmm. You know, the word courage comes from kor, which means the heart. Right? So, courage is really in the heart. It's like a brave-heartedness. You understand?
Yeah.
It's like having a brave heart that's willing to sacrifice if need be, that's willing to be humiliated if need be, whatever the imagined thing. The brave heart says, okay. Just like the story that I told about the Zen abbot, that was courage, right? That was a brave heart to be in a community where you're unjustly accused, and you're made to you're a pariah in the community, and yet you carry on and do the right thing. You know, it's funny. A lot of times. I did an interview this last week, and the woman said something to me about, I followed your history a little bit, and it seems like you've had so much courage. And I said, actually, it always felt just choiceless, like I didn't have an option. Like I had to go the path I went because that was the only option that seemed viable to me. But in part, it was because I was never very good at compromising my heart. I couldn't, if whatever the task or the situation or the circumstance or whatever, if it meant any kind of internal compromise, I wasn't good at doing that. So from one vantage point, that looks like a brave heart. From another vantage point, it looks like it's choiceless. But it's also part of an unwillingness to live in any kind of compromise of integrity. Right? Problem with compromising integrity, doing anything that is not clean and clear and honest and and ethical, etc. There's always someone watching, and that someone is yourself. It's you know what's happening. You know that that wasn't quite right. And so when you start to have a stronger relationship with peace in your own heart, you really feel that very quickly when something's off like that. If there was something dishonest or just whatever it happens to be, you really feel it in your heart. You feel something's off. Something really doesn't feel right. Now, if one persists in that path of any kind of dissembling, any kind of deception, etc., what usually has to happen is greater and greater inner distortion, inner contortion to ignore, deny, forget about, repress. And you start tap dancing inside in really weird ways. And it usually results in quite a big mess. People get more and more lost and far from their own true heart, from their own self. So another way to say this is courage is a kind of alignment, an inner alignment in your heart, such that your heart always feels kind of, you feel kind of clear, yourself or your true nature, however you want to think of it, that there's a kind of clarity, a radiance inside that feels most comfortable. And to others will appear to be a brave heart, but to you it will just feel like, I've been very influenced over the course of my life by what you might call the Gandhis of our time. I even did my first book on that subject. One of whom I certainly didn't get to interview, but would have loved to, was Martin Luther King Jr. But I did watch all of his speeches and read them and so on, and studied his life. If you listen to his last few speeches, you realize that he had a very strong premonition that he was going to be giving up his life, right? But there was no resistance in him about that. If that was the price he was going to pay, he was going to pay that price. And he said, like any man, maybe he said anyone, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But then he said, but I think, does anyone remember? Mercedes, what he said? But anyway, that it was not going to, it may not be so for him. Point being that here's someone who was in a position to have walked away and had a very, flush and perhaps long life, and a wealthy life if he'd wanted. But that was not the destiny in his own heart. He could not take a toe step off the track. We would look at that and call that an incredibly brave heart, right? But probably internally, it was choiceless.